Welcome back to Build Not Wished. This is episode 47. And today we are talking, this is for Monday's drop, we're talking about identity drives behavior. You know, most people are trying to change their habits without ever changing who they believe they are. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. You know, you can set goals all day long, but deep down, if you see yourself as someone else, that's what you're going to believe. If you see yourself as weak, distracted, unhealthy, inconsistent, your actions will eventually return to match that belief. You know, let me break this down. We all know, I've been there, done that. The one who always is trying to lose weight, but you know, they identify themselves as the unhealthy one. Or someone trying to build confidence also while saying, you know, I'm lazy, or I never finish, or I'm awkward. Or someone wanting to financially build success. But they identify, you know what, I'm just bad with money. Or I'm stuck. Your life follows the script that your identity writes. You know, most people focus on motivation or goals or quick fixes. Let me say hacks, for lack of a better term. Temporary bursts of discipline. But they ignore key identifiers. They ignore behaviors that conflict with identity because that will never last long. A person who now sees themselves as someone who protects their health versus a smoker. You know, every action we take is casting a vote for the person you believe you are. You know, I've talked about before about people self-sabotaging. I've lived part of my life where I self-sabotaged. Or why people return to comfort. And you know, I talked about with neuroscience. There's proof that our brains we are wired to return to known patterns, even if they're not healthy, even if they're not good for us. That's where we go. I heard this awesome story about the comedian Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey grew up in a pretty tough environment as a child with a single mom who had some addictions and had a tough existence. And what he learned was, if I'm humorous, I make my mom laugh. He wired his brain. I have to be funny. I have to be humorous. That worked for him. But what have you wired your brain to talk to you about? Or what have you wired your brain to form what patterns? Because we always repeat patterns. I remember talking to a woman who was abused for years, and she was crying to me. This is what, as a manager working in a steel mill, and this woman breaks down and is crying to me and says, "Yeah, he beats me." And she was significantly older than I am, or I was, because I'm older than she is now. um, and I said, "You mean like yesterday or last week?" She said, "For 20 years. And I guess I had a look on my face. And she said, "I know, but I'm used to it." She was used to the pattern. She finally got out of that relationship. But that's a sad, sad commentary. Because the mind always tries to stay consistent with identity. So she identified as an abused person. And she stayed consistent with that. And that was the pattern. So if you identify as a victim, you'll subconsciously or unconsciously search for proof of your victimhood. And if you identify as disciplined, then you'll start protecting standards. And that is when you start building. You know, your surroundings constantly reinforce who you think you are. So let's talk about your surroundings. Let's talk about some things that are patterns in your life every day. Here's one that I found very intriguing. Social media. What's on your feed? Look, I'm a typical male, and for years, there was a lot of half-naked women on my feed. Then I started doing searches and seeking out other things on social media. And now my social media feed is nothing but Qigong, Qigong, Kung Fu, Orthodox Church. That's my feed. Let's talk about your friends. What path are your friends on? Because whatever path they're on, they're likely to take you down that path. What about your family expectations? Oh, I'm just a screw up. I'm the family screw up. I'm the black sheep. What about workplace culture? Right? It's a shit show. Yeah. That's what you're going to get if that's what you believe and expect. What about entertainment? That's at the top of my list. That's my number one priority is entertainment. Or the music I listen to. If it's about just drinking and taking drugs or beating my wife or what have you, what music are you listening to? what I'm really trying to get down to is, okay, what is your internal self-talk? So you become whatever you repeatedly expose your mind to. So if someone spends 5 hours consuming negativity, guess what? And 0 hours building themselves, their identity weakens. I've said this how many times, right? And we all know these people, but we just don't want to be these people. And if you're in a friends group and they say, yeah, I know a guy like that, and you look at your friends and you say, I don't, it's probably you, okay? You know the type of people I'm talking about. They're the victim. They have no responsibility in anything. Everything is always someone else's fault or some sort of extraneous circumstances. You know the people. The people that have a problem for every solution. And you know what? This is what built, not wished is. That's why we exist. We are trying to build identities. Strong, focused, disciplined, health-minded, growth-minded. So what kind of person is your daily routine creating? Here. This is how you rebuild your identity. Step 1, change your language. Stop saying, I'm trying, I'm lazy, I'm bad at this, I never stay consistent. Replace those things with, I'm becoming disciplined. I'm training daily. I keep promises to myself. I'm building strength. Step 2, you have to stack small wins. Every small action matters. Walking, reading, hydrating. That's a hard one for me. It's not water. Learning, training, waking up early. Okay, for some, waking up on time. Here, this is what I want you to understand. Confidence is earned evidence. Okay, step number 3. Build proof daily. Because we all need repeated proof. 1 workout, 1 healthy meal, read 1 chapter of a book, 1 disciplined decision. The mind believes what behavior repeatedly provides. I'm going to say that one more time. The mind believes what our behavior provides over and over and over again. You know, there's a danger in false identity. And what do I mean by false identity? I mean, you know what? I'm a consumer instead of a creator. If you're a creator, you're a creator. Or I'm a victim instead of a builder. And I'm entertained instead of educated. And I'm comfortable instead of capable. So, are you building an identity or are you borrowing from others? You know, all of this social media, all of this internet, all of this stuff that can provide value. You know, when we talk about lean manufacturing, there's a concept that's called the value add, non value add. I've done episodes on that earlier. And there's a small social media percentage that's value add. But you have to search it out. By and large, the majority is driven by algorithms that get those clicks. And that's very shallow, and that's all it is. Because social media simply likes to do what? They like to label, right? Are you this party? Are you this party? Are you this gender? Are you this gender? Do you support this? Or are you opposed to this? Let's put everything into labels, camps. And then guess what you get? You get tribal thinking, not someone thinking individually. And the other beauty of social media is the excuse culture. If you can't think of a good excuse for your flop, social media will do it for you. They'll tell you how wonderful you are. Because weak identity creates weak behavior. But here's what I want you to focus on, and this is what I want this episode to really ring true. I want you to have a built, not wished identity. A built, not wished person. How is that? Trains when they don't feel like it. They learn continually. They protect their minds from the garbage. They build discipline. They take ownership. And they stack wins. Built, not wished people think long term. And they choose growth over comfort. Here's the mantra that I want built, not wished people to memorize. I do not wait to feel motivated. I build who I want to become. You know, every day, every card you complete is not just a task. It's evidence. Evidence that you are becoming someone stronger. So here's the challenge. For the next 30 days, stop asking, what do I want to achieve? Start asking, who am I becoming? Identity drives habits. Habits shape outcomes. Outcomes shape life. And your future is hidden inside your repeated actions. So you don't rise to your goals. You fall to your identity. So build an identity strong enough to carry the life that you want. If this episode challenged you, share it with someone trying to rebuild their life. And remember, you're not built by wishing, you are built, not wished.